Good evening, Rabbi. So we're discussing here now Parashat Shavua, which is the Pinechas, right? Pinechas is also one of the most amazing parshiot that talks about the special breed covenant that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made with Pinchas. Right? So just to give you some background information, who's Pinchas? What is this all about? What's the whole idea? So we say like this, right? That Pinchas was the grandson of Aaron HaKohen. That's who he was, right? So, but it's an interesting history there. What does that mean? There's several interesting things about Pinechas. He wasn't the run-in-the-mill family member here of this family. What does that mean? That his mother was a convert. You know what I mean? That means that the son of Aaron, Elazar, who was now the chief heir to the throne of the Kehuna, of the priesthood, right? Elazar, son of Aaron, his son was Pinchas, but his wife was a convert lady. That's what it says, right? Even though, by the way, the Kohen is not allowed to marry a convert, right? But it seems like this was done before that prohibition came in. What does that mean? That the Kohanim were picked at a certain time when they were in the desert, as we said, right? That they were rejected. The firstborn were rejected, and then the Kohanim were picked to be the ones who bring the sacrifices. So what happened was that before that, all the prohibitions that we had for the Kohanim didn't seem to exist at that time. So therefore, right, everything was different at that time. So he married a woman who was the daughter of Yitro. Yitro was a convert. So she was from converts, this lady. She was probably also converted as well. So what happened was that now he married this lady, and from her was born Pinchas, right? From this lady and from Elazar, the son of Aaron HaKohen. So there's several things over here, right? Number one is also another issue is that Pinchas was not really not a Kohen at this time. How is it that he wasn't a Kohen? He was a grandson of Aaron, right? It always goes there going to the paternal lineage, right? So how is it that he wasn't a Kohen? So say the Chazal that the Kehuna, as we said, right, started at a certain point where the Kohanim were picked instead of the firstborn. So what happened was that the ones that were picked were the ones going to be born afterwards. The ones that were born before didn't yet have the status of Kohanim. So therefore, technically speaking, Pinchas was not a Kohen at this time, even though he was a grandson of Aaron. It's an interesting point, right? So what happened was that now we talked about the issue of Bil'am, right, last week. And Bil'am, what he did was, after his whole scheme to curse the Jewish people didn't work, it all failed, right? By the way, it didn't fail completely, you should know. What does that mean? The Chazal say that even though he blessed the Jewish people, he said blessings on the Jewish people, they say that because this person had such an evil eye, he was such an evil person, evil eye, so even the blessings that he said turned into curses. What does that mean? That a person, sometimes can bless you, but the wording of his blessing is very selfish, very, like jealous kind of thing, jealousy, full of jealousy. And therefore, right, what happened was that since Bilam was by his nature a jealous person, so they say the Chazal that all his blessings in the end turned out to be curses. Can you imagine? So, everything is all relative, right? Okay, that's an interesting point. But what happened was that, as we said, once Bilam and Balak didn't succeed to curse the Jewish people, what does that mean? That with their curses, they didn't succeed to destroy them or to harm them in any way, in any immediate manner. Nothing really came out of it. So what happened was that then Bilam told to Balak, he said, listen, the cursing is not going to work. Forget about this, method. Put it aside. Let's try a different method, right? We talked about this last week. So what was the method that he suggested? He said, what you have to do is get the Jewish people to sin, and then automatically God will punish them, Seduce them into some kind of a sin scheme, right? Some kind of a sinful event. So what they did, as we said, right, that they set up those shopping areas, right, with the daughters of Moab and the daughters of Midian that were seducing the Jewish people. They were coming into those stores, right? Duchane, Duchanebe. So they were coming in, and they would go inside, and this young girl would seduce the guy and cause him to sin, right? To do some kind of first of all, he would do avodah zarah, and then he would do also promiscuity, all these kinds of things. So what happened was that because of this whole scheme, that Bilam now, when he did, it actually worked. It was a big score. It was a big success. So what happened was that 24,000 people now from Shevet Shimon, they died because of that, right? This is the amount of people that sinned. This whole scheme that Bilam set up.
Shimon went there to sin, or there were other people also?
Interesting thing, right? What happened was like this: that the Jews, at that time of history, were very pure and very, holy. So the question is, right? How did these Jews wind up sinning? 24,000 of them, like that, with this kind of a silly scheme, some kind of a shopping mall scheme, whatever, some kind of thing like this, right? So the answer is, Rabbi, says the Zohar Kadosh regarding this, that the reason why these 24,000 from Shevet Shimon, they were the ones who sinned and nobody else. You know why? Because you have to know also all the background. They say Shevet Shimon was one of the troublemakers. This tribe was one of the troublemaker tribes. They had some problems, issues, weaknesses, all kinds of things. There was some issues with them. Number one, this is the place that we see that. But there's also another issue. They say, right, it says the Zohar Kadosh, that these people who were from Shevet Shimon that sinned were actually also from the Erev. What does that mean? That these converts that converted, that left Mitzrayim, they didn't convert L'Shem Shemaim. They didn't convert for the sake of love of Torah, love of God. They converted because of material, purposes, for kavod, for honor, for all kinds of things, right? Things like this. So therefore, what happened was that they now married into the tribe of Shimon. These people. What does that mean? That the boys from tribe of Shimon took the daughters of those converts and married them and had children. So those children that came out from those converts, the mother was a convert, the father was from Shevet Shimon. So because of this bad, ingredient that got mixed into the Jewish people from those Erev Rav, what happened was that they were the ones who sinned. That's what it says, right? 24,000 of them, they were all from the Erev Rav. And also from Shevet Shimon, both of them. You know this, right, Rabbi? The thing is like this. It says in our Kadosh that those 24,000 that died with the Zimri, they were all from the Erev Rav. What does that mean? That the mothers were from the Erev Rav that married men from Shevet Shimon. And this is why they sinned, because they had this bad, Yerusha. Yeah, that's the idea. They came from the Erev Rav. So therefore, what happens is now, right? They're the ones who come and sin because they have weak nature. They're not as strong as the Jewish people. They're more flimsy, spineless kind of Jews, whatever. So they're the ones who came and sinned, right? So now what happened was that Bilam, he succeeded to do what he wanted to do. But what happened was that now there was also the Nasi of tribe of Shimon, right? Who was Zimri, right? By the way, there's a machloket about the identity of this guy. Some say Zimri was one guy, and there was another guy called Shelumiel ben Suri Shaddai, who was the Nasi of Shevet Shimon, of the tribe of Shimon. Right, but the Midrash says like that, but Rashi says not like that. Rashi says that this was two different people. What does that mean? That Shlumiel was the Nasi of the tribe, and Zimri was the Nasi of one of the families of the tribe, not the Nasi altogether. So machloket between Rashi and the Midrash. I don't know exactly why Rashi argues with the Midrash, but it's interesting. But whatever, the point is, right, that anyway, that Zimri now came. They came to Zimri, the tribe of Shimon. They said, listen, what are you sitting over there doing nothing over there, sitting by yourself? Our people are being judged now to be killed. And Moshe Rabbeinu was judging them to be killed. They were because they sinned. They did avodah zarah. They served the avodah zarah peor, right? So what happened was that now they're being judged. They came to Zimri and they told him, they said, what are you sitting there for? Do something to help us. Do something to get us out of this whole jam over here. So Zimri, right, decided to do something drastic over here, right? What does he do? He goes out into the street, right? Starts wandering around, and he meets up with a girl over there, nice lady, right? Who's this lady? This lady actually was a daughter of a king. What does that mean? That they had a war with a country called Midian, right? So what happened was that one of the kings of Midian, who was the chief king, by the way, that this was a chief honcho, this guy. You know what I mean? What happened was that he used to send their daughters in the wars to seduce the soldiers, that they were fighting against. So this way to weaken them. You understand? They do this until this day, by the way. Right? You know that, right? They send these ladies to seduce people. Papadopoulos. You know the story over there, right? In the bar over there in England, right? Some lady came there, right, to seduce him, whatever. All kinds of things like this. It's the oldest trick in the book, right? They use the ladies to seduce the men who were in the war. So what happened was that now they came and she sent out his own daughter. Can you imagine? He sent out his own daughter, this king, right? His name was Tzur, right? He sent out his own daughter to prostitute herself in order to catch somebody, some Jewish guy, to make him to sin. That's the idea. So what happened was that he told her like this when he sent her out. This is how low they were, by the way. Can you imagine these goyim? How low can you be? You send out your daughter to prostitute herself. Such a low thing like that, disgrace. So what happened was that
I've personally never been seduced. I've never been that much.
You told me you were. Okay, so whatever. But anyway, he almost, right? Almost. Close but no cigar. So what happened was that
Wrong generation. Gotta go back to that generation.
So what happened was, right, that he sent her out, but he told her instructions. She says, listen, you're the daughter of a king. You can't seduce just any guy. What you have to do is seduce the king of the Jews, the top honcho, the president. So it says only for Moshe Rabbeinu you go. That's it, right? You don't go below that. I want you to go and seduce Moshe Rabbeinu. Can you imagine something like this? This guy must have been nuts. He thinks that he can seduce Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Who can seduce such a thing like that? But these kings are like, they're messed up in the head. They have some screws loose. So what happened was, right? She goes out there and she's looking for Moshe Rabbeinu. Can you imagine? She's looking for Moshe Rabbeinu. Where's Moshe? Where's Moshe? Like this, lady who came in. Looking around, the chief rabbi, whatever. So what happened was that looking around, and she doesn't find Moshe, right? Moshe is too busy doing his job, He wasn't a lazy bum, like these presidents here who play golf all the time. They go play the golf. That's the job of a president, to play golf, So what happened was that instead of playing golf, Moshe Rabbeinu was doing his job. So she couldn't find Moshe Rabbeinu, but she met up with Zimri, right? So she meets up with Zimri. Zimri's also looking for, this. They're looking for the same thing, Looking for love in the wrong places, right? As I say, right? So it happens, right, that they met up. So she goes up and he goes up to her. He says, who are you? He says, I'm a daughter of the king of Midian. So he says, you know what? I want to propose to you, come to me, be my girlfriend. Let's go. I'm looking for a girlfriend. So she says, but he says, my father, I'm sorry. He says, but my father, who are you? He says, my name is Zimri. So he says, no, my father told me all to go for Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, you're below my standard, I'm a daughter of a king, and you're just a nasi. You're just, you're a prince. You're not on that level. You're a governor. Not the same thing. So Zimri, in order to convince her, what it is, right? Always when guys, they want to get a girl who's a little bit above them, they start like to say lies, all kinds of boasting about themselves, Oh, you know how much money I have. You know how much this, how much that. You know how it is, right? Those guys, they like to play these games. So what happened was, he told her like this, said, I'm even greater than Moshe Rabbeinu, he said. What do you think, Moshe Rabbeinu was better than me? I'm greater than Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what she said, right? That's what he told her. So how did he explain that? What does that mean? Moshe Rabbeinu was the king. He was only just like under Moshe Rabbeinu, one of the lords. So you know what he told her? He said, Moshe Rabbeinu comes from Levi, who's the third son of Yaakov. I come from Shimon, who's the second son. This is the thing. Can you imagine? They know how to play these tricks, right? Whatever. So he says, therefore, I'm bigger than Moshe Rabbeinu. That's what he told her. Right? So she went for this. She went for it. You know how it is, right? She went for it. So he comes now and brings this lady in front of the whole Jewish Jamaat, the crowd over there, the Keilah. He brings her over there, and he goes right up to Moshe Rabbeinu. Over there, Moshe Rabbeinu, Aharon HaKohen, right? It also happens to be that Pinechas as well. Right? Pinechas was also there, right? So what happens is, now he goes up to Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, hey, Moshe, tells him, tell me, is this lady permitted to me? Am I allowed to take her as a girlfriend? What do you say about that? So Moshe Rabbeinu says, what are you talking about? This is a goy, You're a Jewish man. God, what are you talking about? Have you lost your mind? She's a goya. She's a shiksa. That's what they call it, right? So he says, yeah. He says, then who permitted you to marry Tzipora? She's also a goya. Your wife is also goya, right? It wasn't true, right? She converted her. That's something else, right? So he wanted to distort things and make all kinds of to make everything cloudy, to cloud up the whole situation. You know how people know how to do these things, right? They know how to play games. Like the Democrats, they know how to. In Congress, they know how to play these games.
They're going to try tomorrow again.
You know how it is, right? So that's their job. That's their job. So what happens is, right, that he tells her like this. So Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Everybody started to they were in shock, after he rebuked him like this in front of everybody. So the question was, how to deal with this guy now, because he was about to go with this lady and commit a public act of promiscuity. Can you imagine, in front of the whole Jamaat? I mean, they were going to go indoors, obviously, but everybody was going to know what they're doing. Like we're going in, into the room. You know what we're going to be doing over there, right? You know what's going to, that's the way they said, right? So what happened was that now they got into like a bad mode over here, the whole Jewish people. What does that mean? They didn't know how to deal with this guy. They didn't know what the halacha was. What do you do with a man who behaves this way? What's the din, right? How do you take care of him? Is he liable to jail time? He has to go to jail. Does he have to go to detention centers, right? All kinds of things, right? Where should we send him, right? That's the idea. Concentration camps, right? Like they say, right? Those ladies, right? Concentration camps, all kinds of things. Where should we send them to? So nobody knew what was going on. They forgot the halacha. This was something unbelievable. Can you imagine? Moshe Rabbeinu was there, and they didn't know what's the halacha, and all the other Aaron was there. Everybody, they all forgot the halacha. They didn't know. So they say, by the way, how is this that? Right, you wonder, how is it that they all forgot the halacha? What Moshe Rabbeinu, the one who spoke to Kadosh Baruch Hu, face to face, he was speaking to God. He forgot the halacha. So what they say, right? This is what Kadosh Baruch Hu made them forget. He caused them to forget. You know why? In order to give Pinchas his due reward for what he was about to do now. This was the idea. You know what I mean? So Pinchas, all of a sudden, right? He's the only one who remembers the halacha. So he goes to Moshe Rabbeinu. He says, Rabbi, he says, I remember what you taught us about that. That what? That if a person does like a public spectacle like this, right? To be with a goya in public like this, right? Kanaim pogim bo. That's the halacha. What does that mean? Kanaim pogim bo. That means that a person who's a zealot, vigilante kind of guy. You know what I mean? Guardian angels kind of guy. This kind of guy, right? So he can go and kill him himself. No court case, no jury, no nothing, right? No judges, no nothing, no zero, right? You don't have to file any papers, no nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Just go right away and do the job. So he told Moshe Rabbeinu, don't you remember that's what you taught us? The Kanaim pogim bo salacha. So Moshe Rabbeinu said, oh, my son, he says, you're so right. And later, Shalom, we're doing Shir now. So he says, you're so right. You're so right. So what does Zimri tell to Moshe Rabbeinu? Okay, he says, Rabbi, go do it then. Nobody's more zealous than you. So Moshe Rabbeinu tells him, he says, since you're the one who remembered the halacha, he says, you go do it. He says, he sends him as his emissary, right? So he says, you go do it.
What's with this conflict between them?
There's no conflict. It's just a discussion, basically, right? Clarification. So what happens is now, right, that Moshe Rabbeinu sends Zimri, right, on his own volition, by the way. Because you know what it is? The halacha says, to explain, by the way, your question a little bit, I'll give you a little bit of a clarification. The reason why Moshe Rabbeinu did it this way is because the truth is, right, that even though it says in halacha, the kanaim pogim bo, that somebody who's zealous can do this, but we don't tell him to do it. We don't instruct him to do that. If he wants to do it on his own volition, let him go and do it, But if he comes to us to ask, comes to his rabbi, we don't tell him to do it. You know what I mean? So what happened was that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to tell him, go and do it. He said, since you're the one who said it, you're the one who said it. I don't know. It has nothing to do with me, Go take care of your business. I'm not telling you what to do, right? So therefore what happened was that Zimri now went, and he took a risk over here. Why? Because they could have been killed over here very easily. This was a very risky business. You know what I mean? So he goes over there. What does he do? He pulls like a scam on them. He scams them, right? He goes up to the tribe of Shimon, where they're being encamped over there, where this guy now goes with his girlfriend inside the room, whatever. So you know what he does, right? He goes to the guards over there. They're guarding the area. He tells them, he says, listen, he says, you know who I am, right? He says, yeah. He says, you know what? I agree with the Shevet Shimon. I agree with your Nasi, with your president. He says, I also want to support him, I want to go and also join forces with him, The squad, become the squad. These, you know what I mean? One of these people, right? Four losers, right? Comes, so he says, I want also to be a loser like that. So they told him, they said, really? He says, you? He says, yeah. He says, why not? I agree with what he's doing. So what happened was they let him in. Can you imagine? This was a mistake what they did, right? But they got they got Masled over here into that room where he was hanging around over there with his girlfriend. You understand? They allowed him to go in. By the way, they say this was a miracle. That they say that Kadosh Baruch Hu here made 10 miracles for Pinchas in order that he should be able to go inside there and do what he had to do. Because according to the laws of nature, he shouldn't have been able to get in there at all. And number one, number two, also he shouldn't have been able to kill them the way he did. I'll explain to you what that means. So what happened was he walks right in, right? And then also there was another problem. The room that he was in, Zimri, it was locked, whatever, So there was no way to get in there. So he had to, Kadosh Baruch Hu, he made another miracle for him, which was that he lengthened his spear that he had in order that he should be able to stab them without going in, through the window, whatever it was, right? That's the idea. So he was able to, can you imagine all these things that he did? They say also there was another miracle which was probably the most crazy of all of them, right? The miracle was that he was able to, when he put the spear and stabbed both of them, their bodies, like they were actually attached at that time. Can you imagine? Their two bodies were together, So what happened was that he took the spear, and he put the spear through both of them, like a shish kebab, like you understand? Like you put a shish kebab, you take the whatever, that thing, right? And you put it through.
I've seen it in Friday the 13th.
But the crazy thing was like this, right? That he was able to aim so precisely that he got that spear went right through their genitals. The genitals where they were together. It went right through there. Can you imagine? So he cut them, like right there in that spot, where they were sitting.
Wait till Dunkin' Donuts hears about this one.
Okay. You understand? So what happened was that he did all these miracles were made for Pinchas. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been. So he risked his life over here. And he didn't know he was going to get miracles made. He didn't know. But can you imagine? He was.
Room or just any room?
This was a ad hoc room that they made over there because they were in the desert. This was not something.
So it was somebody's room, somebody's house.
It was like a tent probably, like a tent, something like that. It was a tent. That's what it was. It wasn't a building.
Okay,
It was a tent because they were dwelling in tents at that time. That's what it was, because they were always moving from one place to another. Portable tents they had, With all these things, right? Whatever. So he went and he killed them like this. So once Kadosh Baruch Hu, right, saw that what he did, he was so happy with him, that he did this. Why is that? Why was he so happy, Kadosh Baruch Hu? The reason is because otherwise the Jews were going to be punished greatly for this, severely. There was a plague that was going on at that time, but also because of that. So he stopped the plague. He stopped the punishment by killing these two, these two sinners, right? Mm-hmm. So because of that, Kadosh Baruch Hu said, I thank you so much for what you did. So I'm going to give you a special covenant of peace, right? So what was the covenant that he gave him? The covenant was, number one, that even though technically speaking, as we said, he was not a Kohen, he said, I'm going to make you into a Kohen. Number one. He was not a Kohen. Number two also, right, he gave him a very, very long life. Right, they say that Pinchas was also, right, Gemara says in Talmud, we find Pinchas hu Eliyahu. Pinchas was Eliyahu. Eliyahu Navi and Pinchas the same guy. Understand? So therefore, we see that Eliyahu lived right towards the end of the first temple, a long time, right? So therefore, this guy must have lived about, like more than 600 years. So he had a special covenant that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave, maybe 800 years also. I don't know exactly what the timeline is. You have to make a calculation. But the point is, right, that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him a very, very long life because of this also, because of the fact of the zealotry that what he did. And this is exactly what the rabbis say, right? We read this also in the Siddur when we say prayers. Talmidei Chachamim marbim shalom, right? Ba'olam. What does that mean? That the Talmidei Chachamim, they bring peace to the world. What does that mean? Some people think, by the way, what it means is that they're nice to everybody. They don't fight with anybody. They never say anything bad to anybody or whatever. Always pleasant and cute and sweet. That's not the pshat. The pshat is like this, right? What that means is that they, by carrying out the judgment of Hashem, they bring peace to the world. You understand? That's the idea. They carry out judgment. Because if there's no judgment, right, the Kadosh Baruch Hu will just keep punishing. There's no end to it. There's no, it just keeps going, the punishment. So what that means is that by Talmidei Chachamim, by getting to the truth, getting to the judgment, getting to the final right intention of God, His will, carrying out His will, they bring peace to the world. Because otherwise, there's no judgment. So that Kadosh Baruch Hu has to make even a harsher judgment. They say, by the way, that this is I want to teach you a really interesting trick. Right? This is actually considered to be something really powerful. They say that if a person does a sin, right? No, who doesn't do any sins, right? We all sin, right? We all sin. So the question is, what should a person do? Obviously he should do tshuva, but what kind of trick can he pull? Some kind of a trick in order to avoid being punished. So there is actually a trick like that. You know what they say? What it is? They say there's a rule like this in the Chazal that if they judge that person here in this world, they don't judge him anymore in Shamayim. Once the judgment is carried out over here, they leave him alone. That's it. You can't judge a person twice. That's cruel and unusual, right? That's the idea. It's cruel and too much already. So what happens is, this is why Kadosh Baruch Hu wants that people, the tzaddikim, should judge people over here in this world, the rabbis. Why is that? If they don't, then Hashem is going to have to judge them much harsher. So they want that there should be judgment carried out by somebody in this world in order to prevent the judgment above, which can be much worse. So what does that mean? This is a trick that some rabbis have. What they do is, if they did something which was a sin, on their level, whatever, a sin, whatever, so what they do is they judge themselves in this world. What does that mean? They say, because I did this sin, I'm going to now refrain from, this pleasure in life. Let's say I'm not going to drink Coca-Cola for 1 month. No Coca-Cola, right? No eating the sunflower seeds, right? Samichkev, that's it. For 1 month, I get. You understand? So when a person does that, he judged himself. They say they don't judge him anymore in Shemayim.
So he refrains from some kind of...
Right, he punished himself, whatever, Just an example, right? So this is exactly what happened over here also. Since Pinchas over here made this judgment on these people, he prevented something much, much worse, which was supposed to happen from Shemayim. You know what I mean? Something's got to give in this world. You know what I mean? Somebody's got to do the job. This is the idea. So that's why, sometimes you have to step up and do the job, for Kadosh Baruch Hu. And this is what it means, right? Tamid Chachamim marbim shalom ba'olam. They make shalom. Why is that? Because they do judgment and they carry out the truth. They carry out the emet, the truth, and therefore, right, this assuages the judgment of the wrath of God above. This is the idea, right? So they say, by the way, one time with Jimmy, we spoke about this with Jimmy, right? The question is, if you have a person who's a sinner, right, and you kill him, we find over here. So what? But doesn't say you shall not kill, right? What's the answer to that? When a person is a sinner and you have the mitzvah to kill him, adrabah, this is a mitzvah to kill him. So don't have mercy on the guy. If you can do it, you should not have mercy on him. You understand? Why is that? Because if you do, you're going to have cruelty on the whole community. Because the Kadosh Baruch Hu wants this guy to be eliminated. The Kadosh Baruch Hu wants that the sinners should be punished. That's what he wants. He doesn't want them to just go off scot-free. He doesn't want that. So therefore, if a person carries out the judgment, right? Let's say if a person is a murderer, right? He killed somebody. So if you just leave that person and don't execute him, you're bringing the wrath of Hashem in this world. When you execute him, that's why it's good to have death penalty. It's a good thing. Because if you don't execute a killer, what happens is that Hashem is going to bring punishment to the world because of that. It's going to be even worse. So he wants. So therefore, a person is not allowed to have mercy on the wicked. If a person is a sinner like that, and you have a mitzvah to do what you have to do with him, you have to do it. So this is exactly what happens, right? That Tamid Chachamim marbim shalom ba'olam. There's also another way to explain that, by the way. We're not going to get into it now. That's not the time. But anyway, the point is, Rabotai, that now, right, Pinchas got this brit shalom. So what happened was, right, that now Pinchas lived a very, very long time, right? He lived a very long time. We're going to discuss, by the way, what happened towards the end of his life, how his life ended, because this is all connected to this whole event as well. But before this, I want to discuss with you one thing, right? That regarding, David was asking about the story that I told over on the video this week. I sent the video out, right? So I said over there, right, there's a story with Rabbi Akiva. So what happened was that Rabbi Akiva had actually 2 wives. When he was young, when he was 40 years old, he started to learn Torah. Before that, he was Amaretz. He didn't know nothing. He was Amaretz, total Amaretz. His father was a convert, as we said, right? He wasn't really coming from an illustrious family or whatever, nothing. He was a regular guy, He was working in the field. He was a worker. He was a, laborer, That's the idea. So what happened was that Rabbi Akiva, right, once he turned 40, he married the daughter of Kalba Savua, who was one of the billionaires of that generation, right, very wealthy man. Tycoon, whatever. So what happened was that Kalba Savua, his daughter her name was Rachel, right? That was the first wife of Rabbi Akiva. It seems at some point, right after that, we're not going to get into the story about that. We're not going to talk about that. But after that, right, it seems like he took another wife because maybe she died or whatever. Something happened there, Later on, towards the end of his life, he took another wife. So the story goes like this, right? That as we told over there, right, there was this Roman lord. His name was Tunis Rufus. This guy was a big rasha. He was a big troublemaker. This guy, right? By the way, what was his claim to fame? They say that when the Romans destroyed the Beit HaMikdash, he was the one who went, and plowed the field over there to dig up everything. In other words, there should be no remnant left over. He plowed everything up. So he had that, he was zealous to uproot the Beit HaMikdash as much as possible. He was also zealous, in the other way, from the Satan, whatever. So what happened was, right, that Tunis Rufus was a big enemy of the Jews. So his favorite pastime, besides plowing the field, right, what was it? He used to like to argue with Rabbi Akiva. He used to go to Rabbi Akiva, and he would chide him. Like start to ask him questions about this in the Torah. What about this? This doesn't make any sense to me. Trying to find contradictions, all kinds of weak spots. You know what I mean? So Rabbi Akiva, they say, right? Rabbi Akiva was a great scholar. So whatever this guy would ask him, he would answer any question that he had. So this guy was going nuts. He was losing his mind. How is it that I never beat this guy? Every time I try to make some kind of a funny point, make some kind of a joke, he puts me in my place. Bashes me down. Bashing me down to the earth. So he was going nuts. And tried all. They say, by the way, that he also had public debates with him as well. Like they made a forum. Some kind of a public forum in front of the Caesar. All kinds of things. In Rome, all kinds of stuff. And they would have public debates going back and forth. This testament, that testament. There's no testament. Right, this testament, whatever. So what happened was that Rabbi Akiva never lost with this guy. Every time he beat him down. Beat down. You got to beat down. So what happened was that he got frustrated. So one day he goes home, and he tells his wife. So he says his wife sees that he's upset. He looks like a hot tomato, right? The red tomato. So he tells him, "What's bothering you? What's with you? What you got? What happened to you today, right?" Somebody, right? You got mugged, baby. He said, somebody mugged you. So he says, no. He says, Rabbi Akiva, this guy, every time, I try to argue with him to make a mockery out of him. He makes a mockery out of me, puts me in my place. So I'm sick and tired of this. He says, I'm sick and tired of this rabbi. Enough is enough. I'm fed up with him. So she says, no problem. He says, we also have our ways to deal with these things. He says, that I'm a beautiful woman. This lady, what they say, right? She was one of the most beautiful ladies, right? That ever lived, whatever. Something like really, statuesque beauty, like something like that, right? Something out of this world, right? So what happened was that she said, it says, their God, the God of the Jews, he hates promiscuity, So it says, what I'm going to do, right? It says, I'm going to go and seduce him. He's going to do a sin with me. I'm a married woman, it's going to look like, make a monkey out of him. And then Hashem will punish him for sure. Same idea, right? So what happened was, right, that she came to catch Rabbi Akiva, like this lady came over here, whatever. So she came, and what happened was that in order to seduce Rabbi Akiva, she exposed her leg, she probably wore a miniskirt, something like that, whatever. Some kind of mini, whatever. So she sits there, crossing her legs like this, whatever. Rabbi Akiva sees her. So Rabbi Akiva, when he sees her, he does three things, right? One is that he spit, pooh, like this, One, and then he laughs, he says, ha, 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 and then all of a sudden, he cries, he says, ah, ha, ha, ha. Three things he did, So this lady's like looking at him, he says, Rabbi, what's with you, are you normal? What happened? Are you on Valiums? What's with you, what kind of thing is this? What are you doing? So he says, why did you do these three things? For what? What is this business? When you saw me, you did these three things. What did I inspire in you, right? What kind of inspiration did I give you? So he says, I'll tell you the truth. He says, I'll tell you two of the three. The third one I cannot tell you. It's a secret, So he says, the reason why I cried, he says, I'm sorry, the reason why I spit, he says, you know why I spit? He says, because you come from Tipas Rucha. What does that mean, Tipas Rucha? That you, even though you're a very beautiful woman, but spiritually you're a midget, because you come from the Romans, these Romans were big sinners, Goyim, they're the lowest of the low. Like they have in the Vatican today. Same guys, Those are descendants of those people, right? Those losers. So what happened was, he says, it's too bad because you're such a beautiful woman, but on the other hand, you come from a line of losers, from Esav, from the Romans. It's too bad. What does that mean? Spiritually, you're not fit for me, for sure. I can't take you. You're not fit for me. So he says, that's the reason why I spit. So he tells him, okay, he says, fine. He says, why did you cry? So Rabbi Akiva tells her, he says, the reason why I cried is because I know one day you're going to have to go to the grave. And he says, it's so sad that such a beautiful woman like you is going to have to rot in the grave. Your body, such a beautiful specimen like you, is going to have to rot in the grave. Too bad. That's why I cried, he says. It's sad that something beautiful like that is going to have to rot. So she tells him, he says, okay, Rabbi, I understand. Says, why did you laugh? Right? What's the reason why you laughed? You chuckled over there, huh? So he says, that one I cannot tell you, I'm sorry. It's a secret. We'll save that for later, different time. Od chazon lamoed. So what happens is, right, that she starts to pressure him, to say the real. You know how ladies are, right? When they want to get something out of you, they know how to pressure you, They start angle from all kinds of angles, They come from this angle, then from a different angle. You know how ladies are, right? They know how to get the secrets out.
I've never had anybody come in and Andy. So I don't know.
So what happened is like this, right? So in the end, she drove him nuts, So he says, tell me, Rabbi, come on. Between you and me, let's hear. So she says, okay, says, I really shouldn't tell you, but I'll tell you. What can I do, So he says, you know what? He says, the reason why I laughed is because I saw in Ruach HaKodesh, and he had Ruach HaKodesh. He was, divine inspiration. He says, I saw that you're destined to convert to Judaism and to be my wife, to marry me. That's why.
But she was married.
So she was married at that time, right? She was married to Tunis Rufus, right? The Rasha, right? So what happened was that this lady, she was like looking at the rabbi. He says, Rabbi, he says, what, in your religion there's such a thing like that? That a person like me, I came here to cause you to sin, and Hashem is going to forgive me and let me marry you? So he says, yeah. He says, we have teshuvah in our Jewish religion. Teshuvah is a davrun, we have teshuvah. So no problem. He says, you can do teshuvah. So Rabbi Akiva over here, right? He saved himself and also her and everything, right? He didn't do the sin that she was trying to put him into.
Yeah.
So what does this have to do with our story today? Actually, the truth is it's very connected. That's why I said it over again, right? The story. Now I'll tell you what the connection is. Right? Tell you what's the connection. As we spoke about this in the earlier lectures, I don't know if you guys heard this, but I don't know if you remember it also. The truth is, right, that these 24,000 who died with Zimri, right, these of Shevet Shimon in this episode over here, the Chazal say, right, and then the Zohar Kadosh they say, right, they were the Gilgul, they were the reincarnation of the right. The truth is, Rabbi Akiva came later, right? That was later, but they were the reincarnation of who? Of Shechem, right, and his town that got killed by Shimon and Levi. Shimon and Levi went and killed off, right, the Anshe Shechem. So they got reincarnated into the 24,000 of Zimri, right? So Zimri was Gilgul of who? Of Shechem. You understand? So what did Shechem do? What was the sin of Shechem? He kidnapped the daughter of Yaakov Avinu. He raped her, right? And because of that, Shimon and Levi killed them. Because he raped their daughter. So what happened was, right, they got reincarnated. They came back now again, right? Now that they also sinned, right? By doing the sin with these ladies of Moab, of Midian. So Zimri was the reincarnation of Shechem, right? So they say, what happened now, right? Came back again, this guy. This time it was Rabbi Akiva. So Rabbi Akiva was the reincarnation of Shechem, of Zimri. Now came back a third time. This time came back to be a tzaddik. You understand? So therefore now we see, right, that this episode that occurred with the wife of Turnus Rufus, this was actually a tikkun for the sin that he did in the last lifetime. What does that mean? He got seduced by this lady, right? The daughter of Cosbi, right? Cosbi Batsur. She got seduced by this lady, the daughter of the king. So this time he had to withstand the temptation of not being seduced by the wife of Turnus Rufus, and he succeeded. You understand? So we see from there, by the way, that Kadosh Baruch Hu brings back people, to reincarnation, in order to test them, to see if they're going to do the same sin again that they did before. He has to succeed this time. You understand? So what happened was that Rabbi Akiva, this time, he succeeded with flying colors. You understand? This time he resisted temptation. This is the idea. So we see from there, Rabbatai, that Kadosh Baruch Hu brings back people in order to fix up their problems, and this is the way of the world. He brings them back in a Gilgul. But I'll tell you something interesting, by the way, that the issue of Gilgul, of reincarnation, is not mentioned in the Torah. It's only mentioned in the Kabbalah. Where in the Zohar Kadosh, in the Kitvei Arizal, it's not mentioned in the Torah explicitly. Why is that? It's considered to be a secret, by the way. Even though everybody talks about it today. Today, it's like everybody talks about this. Your grandmother, your mother. Everybody, every guy in the corner, street corner, Dunkin' Donuts. They talk about it, right? I don't know if they're talking about it, whatever. The point is, right, that everybody talks about Gilgulim today. So why is it considered to be a secret? Why does Hakadosh Baruch Hu want to keep this as a secret? At that time, anyway, it was a secret. You know why? Because he doesn't want people to rely on this. They're going to come back again and fix their problem. Because it doesn't always work that way, by the way. You should know. You shouldn't say, in this lifetime I'll sin, and then I'll come back next lifetime, and I'll fix everything up. They say, by the way, regarding that a person only gets 4 chances. If he doesn't fix in 4 lifetimes, he doesn't start to do tshuva, that's it. It's over, right? No more chances he gets anymore. If he doesn't start to move towards the tshuva, that's it. They tell him, listen, we gave you 4 chances. Come on, what's with you? Enough is enough.
The guy sins.
Yeah.
He goes there. He gets punished.
Yeah.
Then he goes up. Why does he come back? He's already purified.
It's a good question. This is a very good question. The truth is, you're right. The process that they do up there purifies everything. But, nevertheless, justice has not been served yet. What does that mean, justice has not been served? That means that Kadosh Baruch Hu wants that a person should also resist the temptation that he had before and fix it. Why is that? Because he wants him to give him the Olam Haba, the world to come, to have merit. So the fact that he got cleansed is good, it's good for now. But to have a life in the world to come, he wants him to have his own merit, his own earned. He wants him to earn it, no free lunch. You know what I mean? He's got to earn the merit. So the only way to earn the merit is to be tested and to succeed this time. So then it's your merit, nobody can take it away from you. That belongs to you now. This is the idea, So therefore, right, this is the reason why Kadosh Baruch Hu brings them back. So what happened was that he brought them back like this, and he fixed them up. But the truth is, right, that even in the generation of Rabbi Akiva, still these Talmidim of Rabbi Akiva, 24,000, they had a different problem now. They had personal strife, They couldn't get along, disrespecting each other, and so forth and so on. They died because of that. Right, same 24,000, right, same, yeah. This is the Gilgulim of these people.
So that's the third time that Gilgulim.
Right. This is going to be, now it's going to be the last time, time Mashiach. That's the time, last time, right? This time they're going to fix everything. So what happens is now, right, I want to tell you also another element over here. What happens is, by the way, Jenny, can you leave that door open? Because we need some air. Can you leave it open, the door? We need some air. Thank you. God bless.
Sure.
As much as possible. Gula Dasula. Okay. It's a little bit stuffy in here. You're not cold, are you, David? You're not cold.
No, I'm
okay. Are you okay?
Because I'm not feeling it.
Okay, so if you want me to close, we'll close it.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So I want to tell you also, Rabbi, regarding the future of Pinchas, right? We have to talk about that also. As the generations went along, Pinchas, right, became a big leader in Am Yisrael. He was one of the judges, one of the shoftim.
I just want to make sure you're not talking about Rabbi Pinchas from Suram.
No, it's a different Gilgulia. Okay, so he was also Kohen, by the way. He was also Kohen. Pinchas Kohen. Whatever. You never know, right? You never know. He was also, by the way, very zealous. He was a very zealous man. They gave him the right name, you should know. He had the right name. Am I right or wrong? He had the right name. He was very fitting. Okay. He was a zealot. He was a zealot, If he would see something, like he would, he had tremendous zealous. He was a very zealous person. God bless him. God bless him. God bless his soul, What can I tell you? He was a very, very amazing person. He was a really amazing person. Something unusual.
You remember when he opened up his own shul? He was a character.
He was a character. No question about it. He was a real Pinchas. So comes right now, Pinchas, he becomes one of the leaders of Am Yisrael. But the truth is, that as time went along, even though Pinchas had a very strong role in the Jewish people, as we said, he was a zealot, right?
Yeah.
This was the idea. But the truth is, as time went along, the Jewish people became big sinners. In the first temple, what are we talking about? We're talking about the first temple era, right? The first temple era, where we had the wicked king, right? Ahav. This was the pinnacle of the sinful generation at that time. It was a very sinful generation. All of them were doing idolatry. Almost all of them, they steeped into idolatry. They, the pits.
Worse than World War.
By the way, they say that they had only one merit, and this was what's saving them from destruction. What was the merit? That they were friendly towards each other. They had good friendship. When you have peace in the community, even though they're sinners, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't punish them.
Which doesn't exist now for some reason.
Okay, that's really right. Satanic.
Chuck Schumer and Nadler.
Okay. Wait till tomorrow. We'll talk about that. Tomorrow's a big day. Okay. So what happens like this, right? That Pinchas, as time goes along, what happened was that there was something that happened over there. One of the biggest events was during the time of Ahav. So what happened was that generation was totally wicked, the worst of the worst. And the Eliyahu, who was Pinchas at that time, was hiding out somewhere, and like a nomad, because nobody wanted to talk to him, nobody wanted to see him. They were all wicked, they hated him, they couldn't stand him. There are some generations like that, right? If they see somebody who's a tzaddik, they say, get out of here, go your own way. We don't want you. Thank you very much. That's exactly what happened. So what happened was that right at that time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Eliyahu, there's a nice story, right, brought down. Tells Eliyahu like this. He says, listen, he says, there's the king, Ahav. He says there's one of his ministers, his son just died, right? His name was Chiel, right? His name was Chiel, right? So they say, right, that this guy had a son who died. I don't want to get into the story why he died or whatever, but the point is, right, that he tells Eliyahu, he says, go, they're having a funeral today over there, Parkside, whatever, they're having a funeral over there. He says, go and, console them. It's not nice if you don't go, derech eretz, Jesus diloba. Go and console them, These are like ministers, the king, ministers there, all the big shots are there, If you don't go, it doesn't look nice. So Eliyahu tells Hashem, he says, you know what? He says, you know me. You know who I am. I'm a zealot. I can't tolerate, like sinful behavior. He says, if I go over there, I'm going to start talking about, all kinds of nonsense, heresy, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of issues. So he says, what's going to be with me? He says, I'm going to start fighting with them. There's going to be a big ruckus over there. I can't control myself. If I hear something from them, some crazy stuff, I'm going to lose it, I'm going to...
Just like a pronounce it hosted. How many times? Which one you ever call it? Mama, una pena para teatro chata da locho. A caprena, magasko teatro luria.
So what happened was that jack of all trades, right? Jack of all trades. So what happened was that he told him like this. He says, if you send me, he says, be careful because you know what's gonna be, right? He says, I'm gonna go crazy. I'm gonna go wild. So he says, you know what? He says, go anyway. He says, if they do something you don't like, I give you permission to punish them. You can give it to them. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So what happened was that he goes over there. He goes to the funeral, right? They're standing over there, all of them like this. The big ministers, big shots. You know how it is, right? So what happens is, right, that he goes to console Chiel, right? So he goes to go. Ahab was also standing there, the king. Two of them standing together, This one is Rasha, this one is Rasha, Zet Trefaz and Nevela, right? So he's standing there with them. He says, I console you, this and that, whatever. So they start talking about what happened, There was a story behind this. They say, right, that all the sons of this guy, Chiel, they all died. All the sons died. Like he had 5 sons, all of them, in a few years. So what was the reason why his sons died? They say, right, that he built the Jericho. Jericho is a town in Israel. So what happened was that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a commandment to Yoshua ben Nun when they conquered the land, do not rebuild this city, right? It should never be rebuilt. Do not rebuild it. So this guy gets up, Hiel, Rasha, he says, you know what? He says, I'm going to rebuild it. I don't care about that. I'm not afraid of that, This is like old-fashioned stuff, all kinds of antiquated, all kinds of things. Why do we care? We're modern people, We're sophisticated, We're today's people, We're liberal, liberal people, right? Those guys over there, right? Right. Progressive. We're progressive, right? Progressive, yeah. Progressing into hell, right? That's what I mean, right? So what happens is that he says, I'm gonna build that city. So it says in there in the pasuk, right over there in the Yoshua, whoever builds this city Jericho, right? He's gonna start. When he starts building, his first son will die. When he finishes the town, his last son will die. That's what it says. Big curse, and that's exactly what happened to this guy. When he started building the town, his first son died. When he finished the town, his last son died. So now, they're standing there at the funeral. So, they're discussing this whole, this concept here, right? This whole ideology behind this whole thing, right? So they're saying, Ahab starts to tell Yehiel, he says, maybe he says, somebody told him over there. He said, maybe you shouldn't have built the town, Jericho, because Jericho, in Hebrew it's called Jericho. Right? You shouldn't have built it. There's a curse that says in Yoshua bin Nun, whoever builds that city, all his sons will die. So comes Ahab, talking with chutzpah, arrogant man, arrogant king, So he comes and says, no, don't believe that stuff. He says, ridiculous. Don't believe what they tell you about that stuff. The curse of Yoshua bin Nun, this and that, all kinds of things. We don't believe in that. Nonsense. So they asked him, they said, why is it nonsense? What kind of nonsense is that? There's a curse. Exactly what it's written over. That's exactly what happened to you. What nonsense is that? So he tells him, he says, I'll tell you why it's nonsense. So he says, who was bigger? Moshe Rabbeinu or Yoshua bin Nun, his Talmid, right? Obviously the rabbi is bigger than Talmid. It's always like that, right? The rabbi is always bigger. In most cases, right? So he says, all the curses that Moshe Rabbeinu said, if we don't keep the Torah, it's going to happen like this. No rain, no parnasah, no this, right? All kinds of things. He says, we're living a beautiful life. He says, if we don't keep the Torah, we don't keep nothing in the Torah. It says, and here we are, right, living a beautiful life, luxurious, right? We're living it up. He says, if the curse of Moshe Rabbeinu didn't come true, he says, all the rest of his Talmid, his student, his disciple, is not going to come true. He says, ridiculous. That's what he made. Can you imagine? He said such a thing. That's it. So, right, Eliyahu, he was there. He heard this. He warned HaKadosh Baruch Hu, by the way. I don't want to go there. Because when I hear these things, heretical, things like this, I'm going to lose my temper. It is, right? So he heard, this whole discussion, standing right there. So he tells him, he says, oh yeah? He says, I'm going to show you guys. He says, now I'm going to show you who's boss. So he says, I'm going to tell you right now. He says, until I say the word, until I give permission, there's not going to be any more rain in Israel. Because you said this heretical stuff like that. Right? So he goes home, That's it. Episode is over, right? Apparently. Not yet, right? Just that night is over. Goes home, right? So they're waiting for rain. A few months pass by, no rain. When you have no rain in Israel, that's a disaster, That means you have no crops, you have no food, no nothing. Everything breaks apart. So what happens, right, that they waited 1 year, 2 years, no rain. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, no rain. Can you imagine? And there was famine and hunger, It was like a total disaster. The whole country was going under. Right? Even their animals didn't have what to drink, They didn't have any water, no nothing. It was total disaster. So what happens is, right, that now Kadosh Baruch Hu tells to Eliyahu.
He's not working condition. Chocolate.
So HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells to Eliyahu, he says, when it says, don't you have mercy on them? My children are dying over here, Have mercy on them, for God's sakes. Let them off, let them off the hook. Go on and allow the rain to come. I put it into your hands, this whole thing, But he says, come on, look what's going on. People are dying left and right over here, So he tells him, he says, don't you want to let go of that? And so he gave him. But there's a way he forced him, by the way, to give up this right of stopping the rain. He pulled the trick on him. I don't want to get into it now. It's a long story, but the point is, right, that now Hashem, yeah, exactly. He pulled the trick on Eliyahu to get him to give up the right. So what happened was, we'll talk about it a different time. But what happens is like this now, right? That Hashem tells him, he says, give me back the keys of the rain, and I'll give you a different key. Because he needed a different key. This is what happened, right? There was 3 keys that Kadosh Baruch Hu holds. He doesn't give to mankind. One is for the rain, right, for the parasha. One is for childbirth, and one is for resurrection of the dead. Nobody can do that except Hashem, right? So what happened was that he needed to resurrect somebody. There was a dead person. He wanted to resurrect. So Kadosh Baruch Hu told him. He says, you know what? He says, if you want to do that, give me back the key, right, of the rain, right? Exactly. Says, otherwise, they're going to say, you're greater than me. I'm God. You have 2 keys. I have only 1 key. So he says, therefore, give me back. I'll switch with you. We'll do a switch, barter. That's how he. Eliyahu at that time had 2 keys. You understand?
Resurrection and rain.
He had 2 keys. So I'll explain to you. What happens like this, right? That Kadosh Baruch Hu at that he told him like this: if I give you, I'll explain to you exactly what it means. He says, if I give you now the key of resurrection and you're holding the key of rain, you have 2 and I only have 1. That's not right.
So E5 will keep you.
Exactly. That's the theoretically speaking, right? So he says, therefore, if you want the key of resurrection, give me back the key of the rain. He pulled a trick on him like this. You understand? So what happened was Eliyahu had no choice. So he says, okay, he says, I'll give it back to you. Okay, I do. Right? So then Kadosh Baruch Hu brought the rain after 3 years. Can you imagine? After 3 years of famine, he brought the rain. So then what happened was, right, that they wanted to. He got into some kind of a squabble with the kingdom over there. His wife, by the way, also Ahab's wife, Jezebel, she was also a big wicked woman. So she started to chase Eliyahu to try to kill him, to assassinate him, whatever, So Eliyahu had to run off at that time because he was on their hit list already. You understand? So where did he go? Eliyahu went all the way south, right? He went south. Where does he wind up in the end? After 40 days, he gets to Har Sinai, right? He went to Mount Sinai. Can you imagine? That's in Egypt. Sinai Peninsula. He goes over there. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, once he gets there, can you imagine? He meets up with him over there. And this is exactly what happened to Eliyahu over there. This is exactly what happened like Moshe Rabbeinu. What does that mean? Just like Moshe Rabbeinu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to Moshe Rabbeinu, like once, to see the back of his face, as they say, right, that he was revealed. In the front of the face, could not see, but the back. So this is exactly what happened to Eliyahu. Eliyahu also was zoche over here to see the back of Hashem's face. Something unbelievable, right?
What did it look like?
It's not a physical face. We're talking about something spiritual here. We're talking about knowledge and understanding, and depth. These kinds of. It's a spiritual concept because Hashem doesn't have a face. He's not a man. Right? You understand, right? So the Rambam says, by the way, if a person believes that God, has like a body, like he's a man, he's considered to be a heretic. He has no portion of the world to come. That's considered to be something very bad, right? God has no body. He doesn't have a physical body. We're talking about spiritual. So the point is like this, right? That Eliyahu over there got a big revelation from God. He reached a very high level, He was alive for a long time, as we said, for hundreds of years. So what happened was that he gave him over there a demonstration to show him what his problem was. He had a problem. Yeah, exactly. The problem was that in this generation, where the generation was all sinners, basically, he was too zealous for that generation. He didn't fit in. For that generation, you need more like a forgiving rabbi. Somebody who's like more chilled out. Somebody who's tolerant rabbi. There are also these types. There are rabbis who are like they burn. They burn. Watch out. Whatever you look at, they burn. There are rabbis who are like very chill. Chill out. Nice, sweet. That's nice. We bring you to Torah, but in a nice way, gentle way. You know what I mean? Eliyahu was not a person like that. He was like brimstone and fire, fire and brimstone. That's the idea. So Eliyahu, right now, Kadosh Baruch Hu passes. He goes onto the cleft of the rock to see the Hashem passing by. Can you imagine, like Moshe Rabbeinu, same level he got to. This was very high level, What happened was that Kadosh Baruch Hu first passed by some elements before he actually came himself. The first element he passed by was fire, First fire passed by, but Hashem was not in the fire. Then a big hurricane wind, tornado passed by. He was not in the tornado, right? All kinds of things like this, earthquake, this, that, whatever. They all passed by, but he was not in those. And then what happened was, right, that in the end, there was a silent voice, a quiet voice that passed by, a gentle voice. So Hashem was in that gentle voice. So they say, right, the Mefarshim, the commentators, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to teach Eliyahu regarding that. He says, I'm not a person who likes fire and brimstone and, there's hurricanes and tornadoes. I like a gentle way, I like gentle rabbis who bring people close to Hashem with gentle voice, with a gentle mouth. That doesn't mean you got to let them off the hook with everything. You have to tell them the truth, but say it in a nice way. Don't scream at them. Don't yell at them. Don't mock them. Don't put them down. Don't make them feel like they're zero. That's it. Kadosh Baruch Hu told him. He says, he says, Eliyahu, I really love you. You're the best. Nobody like you in the world. But one thing about you, he says, I can't seem to convince you. Why do you always lose your temper? And get angry at them. Just chill out. And tell them if something is wrong. Tell them the truth. That's it. Tell them in a nice way. Just say it. You don't have to lose your temper. You don't have to get angry.
If that's the
that's the idea.
If that's the idea, then Abraham is a perfect rabbi.
So he tells him like this, right? He tells him.
That's very dignified, very carries himself.
He tells him like this. He tells Eliyahu, he says, I'm sorry. He says, but the bottom line over here is, he says, I'm going to have to take you from the world at this point. He says, why? Because in this generation you don't fit in. In the generation of Moshe Rabbeinu, you were a zealot. At that time, we needed somebody like you over there. You know what I mean? That's a different generation. In this generation of sinners, you don't fit in over there. This is not your place. You're too strong. You're too powerful. You burn. You're too zealous. Mm-hmm. Be gentle with them.
Why not?
Eliyahu was not able to do. 600 years he was alive. How much chance you want to give, right? Nice. You know what I mean? As I say, right? The leopard cannot change his spots. You know what I mean? The tiger cannot change his stripes. That's the way it is. That's person is like that. That's his nature. That's the way it is. So I'm going to have to take you from the world. So we see from there, Rabbi, what do we see from here? It's a very, very powerful lesson, right? That sometimes to be a zealot is the right thing to do, depending on the situation. Sometimes being a zealot can be a very damaging thing, depending on what generation you live in, what circumstances you have, and all kinds of things like this, whatever it is. So, Kadosh Baruch Hu has to, give us that, that's what we have to pray. He has to give us knowledge and understanding to know how to deal with every situation in the proper way. So we shouldn't bring people away from Judaism by, embarrassing them and mocking them and burning them, this kind of thing. We should bring them close to Kadosh Baruch Hu. Words of sweetness. That's what they say about Aaron HaKohen, by the way. Aaron HaKohen, that was his nature. Aaron used to bring people close to Hashem with love, right? And they say, by the way, because of that, during his funeral, when he died, they were all crying, very profusely for him, for his death. You know why? Because they loved him so much. You know why? Because he made peace with them. He made with love. He brought them to Torah. He brought them close. Everything with love and gentle and nice. But by the way, the corruption of this, you know what it is? What's the corruption of that? Which is just the opposite, regarding what you asked about, and I'll answer you. They say, right, there's a Gemara that says that if you see a rabbi, that all the community likes him, everybody loves him, and he has no enemies. Everybody likes him in the community, He's like Mr. Spiffy, Mr. Charming. Everybody loves him, Nobody says nothing bad about him, right? So they say in the Talmud, they say you should know this rabbi is a sinner. A person, rabbi like that. That's the answer to your question. Why is that? What's the reason why? Because a person who everybody likes him, that means he doesn't rebuke them for what they do wrong. This you cannot do. You see, this is going to the other extreme. You understand? This is going to the other extreme. When you don't rebuke them, you don't tell them the truth, so you're causing them to sin. So you're failing as a rabbi. You're failing as a leader. This is going to the other extreme. So what's the proper balance? You understand? The proper balance is you have to rebuke them, you have to tell them the truth, but say it in a nice way. Why disrespect them? Why to put them down? Why to burn them? Why to make them feel like rejected and dejected? It's not the way to do it, understand? So this is the balance. They say, by the way, that the fathers, right? We had Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, our patriarchs, the greatest of the great. Abraham was in need of chesed, kindness. He was like Aaron HaKohen, same. Yitzchak was din, he was judgment, Yitzchak. They say Yaakov Avinu was more perfect than all of them. What does that mean? He was a mix of both of them, that proper combination of din and chesed. That's what a rabbi has to have. When a person has that kind of quality, he knows how to couple these two things together. What's that called? Tiferet. That's considered to be the best quality of a rabbi. What does that mean? That he knows how to mix those two elements together and come up with a proper, recipe. That it should be a very delicious, meal. Very gourmet meal. That's the idea. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen. Amen. Chazak Baruch. Thanks for coming. God bless.
I have a question. When the children of Israel came out of Mitzrayim, they were in the Kohanim.